Coming up with great ideas for your portfolio can be one of the hardest things you can do. And I say that because I see this all the time from talking with people is that what should I do? What drives value? What means a quality app? Because half the things you've built from either your boot camp, self-started, or your university don't really drive value to a hiring manager. And that's what we want to talk about today because cloning apps such as Twitter, Yelp, even uh, Spotify. I had to think about that for a second there. Those apps you can clone and you can add them to your resume, but truth be told, they don't do anything because you get the expression from the hiring manager of, oh, not another one. Not another one because I get these all the time. But what can we do to save those projects to make them worthwhile so that we can put them on our resume, we can sell them in our portfolio, and when someone looks at them, it drives value, not just someone, a hiring manager. That's what we're going to talk about today. If you like this type of content, make sure you give a thumbs up, hit the subscribe and notification bell to get more of this in the future. Creating a clone that takes the original idea and adds value to it can be a little bit of work. Let's be very clear here. Doing the initial app and cloning it is a lot of work, but it's going to take even more work to get it to a spot that's going to impress somebody. So let's cover our main criteria now. So when you look at a clone like this, what I'm really getting at that I want you to cover and add, put your own spin on it, is for one, to solve an existing problem, two, add a new level of design, or three, add a feature that helps the users out. Those are like the top three criteria I want you to follow. I'm going to put some examples now over the screen as we talk about it and go through these. So let's start with this first one. Pipelines, creating a pipeline for this clone. So when we talk about creating a pipeline, we're talking about something like Jenkins, Circle CI, you've got Travis, you can ultimately deploy these to Heroku, Netlify, AWS, anywhere you want. The idea of creating a pipeline here is that you show the hiring manager that not only can you build the code, but you can get it deployed in an environment that the public can see. Now, does this always move the needle? No, not always, because not everybody that looks at this is going to notice or pay attention to it. Now, yes, you can sell it in the resume, but it doesn't always move the needle because not every job role is going to require this, especially earlier in your career. Let's focus on the next one. Adding a responsive design to ensure that the app looks great on all different types of devices. When I find clones, sometimes they don't respond well to different screen sizes. And even then, some applications just don't have a good mobile responsive design. So what you can do here is you can not only take this clone and make it mobile responsive, but then you can add a new experience mobilely to show people how you might change up one of these applications for the better. And it's a chance for you to sell your design capabilities and exactly the experience you built for the user. Next, adding at least 100 test cases in the three main areas: unit test cases, integration test cases, and end-to-end test cases. Now, I want to point out specifically one main framework that I want you to utilize because it's going to wow you on how awesome it truly is. But first, we need test cases to show people that you know what the job requires, because a lot of development nowadays is moving to automated testing. I know we've all heard TDD. Not to say that everyone does TDD, because people who actually try it realize it's very hard. But point is, a lot of things are still moving to automated testing because then you don't need a QA engineer. Sorry for the QA engineers out there listening to this. But these ultimately have replaced that job, and it's become important because it's how the company saves money and still has quality assurance. But there is this right here, as you see coming over the screen now, Cypress. I want you to go check out Cypress.io. It's an amazing tool that does end-to-end test cases where you can pause in the middle of a test and see exactly what the browser sees and debug from there. It's absolutely amazing. One of my favorite things to add to a clone. Now, next, I want to talk about adding 100 million users to a database and then load testing your site. Because if you can architect your code in the right way and you know how to build at scale, it's not to say you have to be an architect, you have to act like you got 20 years experience, no. But being able to build code out that can actually scale and users can utilize it without it crashing with more than 10 users on the site is something good to see. And so with this example, I want you to use something like npm faker and npm artillery. And I want you to load in 100 million users, and then I want you to use artillery to test your server against users. How many users can it handle? Once you get that number, I want you then to go and change the code up, make it better, refactor it, refine it, add in different coding styles, use different libraries that's going to help you out. Do you use async awaits and making sure that you are using control flow properly throughout your program, and retest it and see if you can improve performance by 30%. Because when we talk about something standing out on your resume, this is one that can stand out on your resume that gets a lot of attention and will get you a lot of questions. This is a very much a value added example for you to add on your cloned applications. Another example is adding a feature that will drastically change the user experience. And I'm not talking about mobile design here. I'm not even talking about design. I'm talking about something like a Chrome extension. Giving people another way to interact with this application so that they can have a new experience with it. And so I find this is another way to drive another experience. Now, there's other things you could do. You could do React Native. You could do Electron and build a desktop app. Lots of things in there you could do. But ultimately, it's showing them another experience, another way to take one of these clones and feel what it's like to change the experience up and show people how that might drive more value. Next, serverless, and being able to deploy serverless to AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud. This is one where if you want to take that RESTful API and deploy it into these type of serverless environments, this is something where you can show some value and put it on your resume on how you built this serverless. A lot of companies are starting to offload some of their microservices into serverless providers, especially like Lambda functions. Very popular. Let's talk about the last two I have now. Integrated with an API that drives a new experience. And when I talk about this experience, I'm talking about, great, in the previous one, it was like a Chrome extension. It was React Native. It was Electron. But right now, I'm talking about something like Twilio, an API service that now changes maybe onboarding, because no longer do you email them, maybe you text them. Maybe you built an experience that moves it around the phone. Who knows? You can integrate with APIs that do a lot of different things. Twilio is just a great one that comes to mind. And then you can talk about in your resume how you've integrated with Twilio. And then last but not least, accessibility. Accessibility is something that I want you to integrate in to be able to talk to, because a lot of companies suffer at not being able to do accessibility correctly and having the right capabilities in to make sure it's accessible to all. And so if you can show this, this is something you can come in and easily champion. Anyone can, almost any company right now, because it's not talked about enough or done enough. Most developers in most instances do not know enough about accessibility. So not only do I want to advocate that you pay more attention to accessibility right now, but I want you to advocate to put it in your projects so that you can sell it in the resume, in the interview. So if we review everything we've talked about today, from your clone, we could sell a lot of damn good things, right? We could sell how we've done a pipeline. We could sell how we have created a mobile responsive design. We could sell how we have over 100 test cases and it's thoroughly vetted through Cypress. We've seeded the database to 100 million. Don't even tell them 100 million. Just say on your resume that you've saved API performance time by 30%. You also put on your resume that you've added a feature that changes the experience for them and does this, this, and this by implementing Chrome extension. How you've offloaded your API into a serverless service such as AWS and get some good keywords on the page there. And lastly, you can talk about how you've integrated this API with Twilio and it's driven the ability for people to use it. And I guess I can't say lastly yet because this is truly the last one. Talk about how you've implemented accessibility. Yeah, that's a lot of good bullet points. That is a ton there of how do you take a clone and all of a sudden make it just feature rich and you drive value to a hiring manager. And what we do here is we can sell these 8 points on your resume. You could make 8 bullet points out of these things. Ultimately, you probably want to combine some, but you can make 4 then really quality bullet points where you talk about how you moved over to serverless and you did testing. And then you talked about how you did design, and that helped accessibility. And you can morph some of these things together to drive value with your clone. And that way you can keep your clone. Because like we said in the beginning, one of the hardest things to do is come up with ideas. But it's not too hard when you already have started with a clone. Now you just come up with some of these enhancements. And you do that, and you will be able to sell this and add value to your portfolio. That's going to do it for us today. If you have any questions, comments, please leave them down below or reach out, find me on LinkedIn,